Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about, of course, a specific movie, but we'll introduce that one in a little bit. First, I want to invite you to join the fan vote, which happens during today's episode. You can get your movie recommendations in, and your movie could show up on the next fan vote, just like Fellow. Fellow recommended a movie for the next fan vote, and he gets in there first time since it's a new movie. Pretty spicy. If you want to recommend a movie, just head over to the YouTube channel and comment on the latest episode of Film Freaks with a Z, or send us an email at ff.filmfreakswithaz at the end at gmail.com, or you can talk to us in the Discord, the movie stuff section of my Discord, the Ferret Nation, and you can recommend a movie there as well. Before we introduce the movie, though, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am Yemmy the Ferret. Who am I here with?
Greedy Waffles.
Animation.
And Just Kellis.
All right, so because this episode, has a theme to it, I just want to know what's everyone's favorite Hogwarts house.
Hogwarts house.
Wait a second.
Funny enough, both Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring and the Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone are both 20 years old. Well, now they're a little bit more than 20 years old at this point, but they both had their 20th anniversary last year, which is it's kind of crazy to think that both those movies came out on in the same year.
Yeah.
What's so funny is that while I was watching Lord of the Rings, it was in the beginning, and my mom walked in and she was like, "Oh, is this Harry Potter?"
So my joke is meta, and I didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. I still can't believe 20 years ago, because, damn.
Thanks.
Well,
But yeah, growing up, it was just oh, did you watch Harry Potter? I was like, no, Lord of the Rings. And I was opposite.
I was both.
Yeah, I watched both. I watched the Harry Potter up until the seventh movie or something like that. It was I watched up until the one where they had the Mad Eye Moody.
Oh, the fifth.
Oh, that was the fifth. Okay, so fifth one now.
No, fourth.
I've only seen the first two. That's it.
See, I didn't care. When the first two came out, I hadn't read Harry Potter or anything. I didn't care. I was definitely Lord of the Rings, and then I had a girlfriend at the time who made me read. Well, we made a bet. If she read a book of my choice, I'd read the book of her choice, and she had me read Harry Potter, and I liked it. So
what was the book you made her read?
She never read it, but it was Wheel of Time.
Well, no wonder you're not together anymore.
Right? Yeah.
Well,
this was in high school, so
let's have Greedy Waffles introduce the movie so we can get into the discussion fully.
Okay,
while you get into that, I'm gonna restart my Discord real quick because everyone's sounds distorted now. So just continue, and I'll be right back.
Okay. I guess I should have checked with Callus first before he moved on. I apologize. Greedy, go ahead and introduce the movie while he does that.
All right, so obviously, if you haven't picked it up yet, the movie I chose is Lord of the Rings, the very first one, The Fellowship of the Ring. It came out in 2001, and it is directed by Peter Jackson, and it's based off a novel, The Fellowship of the Ring, by J.R.R. Tolkien. And what's it about? Well, if you don't know what it's about, it's a meek hobbit from the Shire and 8 companions set out on a journey to destroy the powerful One Ring and save Middle-earth from the Dark Lord Sauron. So who are some of the stars in there? Well, there's a lot. Elijah Wood, he plays Frodo. Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf. Orlando Bloom, that plays Legolas. Sean Bean plays Boromir. However you want to say it. Sean Astin, Sam, Sala Baker, Sauron, and a bunch more. Christopher Lloyd plays Gandalf, or not Gandalf.
Saruman.
Sauron, yes.
Wait, did you say Christopher Lloyd?
It's Christopher Lee. Sorry, Christopher Lee plays Sauron.
Lee, yeah.
I was like,
I scrolled way past his name too fast.
Anyways, Christopher Lloyd is not in this movie that I know of.
And don't
Yeah,
forget Dominic Monaghan, who played Mary, and Billy Boyd, who played Pippin. Gotta get the
Yep.
main people in there at least.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes.
at least. And Lawrence Macro, who played
Oh, and
Bruce.
and
Kate
you know,
Winslet.
recently passed Ian Holm was Bilbo in this
Oh
trilogy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kate
Oh, yeah.
Winslet, Liv Tyler.
Andy Serkis, Gollum, who's not really
Andy
in the movie,
Serkis, yeah.
but you know.
Guys, this whole podcast is just going to be us listening off
Listening
the
to names.
actors.
Yeah. Peter Jackson was an extra, also directed it. Yeah.
Did anyone mention Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragorn?
I don't think
No,
he came
not
up
yet.
yet. No.
No, see?
Well, there you go.
Too many.
Yeah. We
All
can't
right,
miss out on the most handsome actor in the group.
I already
Yes.
said Orlando Bloom. What are you talking about?
Oh, I think we got a
Anyways,
battle going on here.
Aragorn versus Legolas in the comments. Who's
Let's go.
hotter?
right.
Gimli, obviously.
yeah,
Gimli wins. Yep.
I don't know, man. Gandalf.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I wanted to start this conversation off. So I know we all seen this movie like in the past. What are some of the things that like watching this movie like caught your attention that like didn't before? Like, did anything like you forget about any parts, or is there like any like oopsies you caught before, or what's this your overall like?
So
What do you-
I mean, there was a few things. One, I caught like a weird visual effects thing that didn't, like, I had never noticed before, and it was something super small and minor, but
Green
just
screen? What's
Same
the-
not
here,
even, it
yeah.
wasn't even a green screen. It was like
It was
one-
CGI, right?
No, it was one of the Nazgul was like chasing Frodo, and in one scene, like he was in darkness, and I guess the way it was lit, I'm thinking you could see the writer's face, so they just like masked it out, but it made it like pure black, so he just had this pure black spot in his face, while nothing else in the scene was pure black, so it just stood out a little bit, but it also might have been intentional. I don't know.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, like I said, it was like a blink and you miss it. It was like for half a second, but I noticed it because I was just like, "What was that?"
Do you have like a OLED TV?
No, I was watching it on my computer monitor.
Okay.
Yeah, I have an OLED and I didn't notice that, so maybe the smart AI on my TV filled it in or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
I would say back to Greedy's question. There's a few scenes in the Mines of Moria. When I was a kid, obviously I wouldn't notice it, but there's like some sweeping shots where you see like the whole area, and you can tell that the actors are kind of running across like a green screen or something like that, because they didn't actually build that whole hall. Maybe they built like a few things in there, but
Yeah.
you could tell, like, especially when like there's hordes of like goblins or orcs or something like that, when they have to like kind of like copy paste models and stuff. And those are so minor though that I really don't take away anything from the movie. But there are things that you notice now that's like, oh, Gollum looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
Gollum
Yeah.
like always has looked different in this movie because you only see his hands for a little bit.
Yeah, you see a little bit of his
And-
face in the mines.
Yeah, and it's never looked like as good as it does in the next two movies.
Right.
One thing that I noticed with the green screen, at least I thought it was a green screen, is when they first set out on their sail, they get to like the mountains, I guess, and they're like all coming over like a rock, like a pathway with there's a rock, and it just looked like the way they were coming over like that hill rock area. It's very early, and it just looked like a green screen behind them.
It was probably it wasn't. It was probably more of a matte painting, digital matte painting, and it just didn't quite blend perfectly.
Yeah,
But it
'cause
was like one of
most-
those where it showed them like each one by one coming over. It's just like, oh, that looked kind of rough.
Yeah, I'm not sure what scene you're talking about, but I do know that they shot most of this movie on location in like New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Yes, New Zealand.
But I did
I'm
notice
I mean, they
also,
did
like,
add some things, digitally in there to make it look a little bit more grandiose. And obviously, you got to edit out like maybe for like a building or something's there.
Yeah, I mean all of
Yeah,
the
no.
ruins that was those were matte paintings.
I did notice that too, where like some of the backgrounds, definitely were like, paintings, and also like when they were in like in the mines of Moria, there's some scenes when like, when the actors are like in very dangerous situations. I did notice that some of the scenes were just them as CGI.
Yeah, I know them crossing the bridge is all CGI.
Yeah, that is a little bit noticeable, that's for sure.
Yeah. I didn't notice, like, I hadn't, as a kid, I didn't really notice it, but I knew that, like, they had stunt doubles that were, the shorter people to play the hobbits and dwarfs for the faraway scenes. And there was a few times this watch through that I actually could really tell it was, the stand-ins, like the face, like you get a bit glimpse of their face and it's just not quite right. But that's very minor, and
Yeah,
it's only because I was kind of looking for it. Because, like I said, I know they were all.
Well, yeah, if you're looking for it, then you're gonna notice it for sure.
Yeah,
I wasn't looking for those things, so like even though I knew it was a stand-in for the faraway shot, I didn't really notice that it wasn't Frodo until I thought about it. And I was like, oh, that's not Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
but it wasn't it wasn't super noticeable.
The one scene that was really kind of stood out was when they're in the snow, like climbing the mountains, and Frodo falls and the ring falls off him. So there's a shot of Boromir and Frodo, and in the background you see just most of the people, but they're kind of, like, the rest of the Fellowship, but they're kind of blurred out. Yeah. But just, I don't know which Hobbit stand-in it was. Just one of them just like had a more square head. Like you just you can tell blurred out. It's like that's not any of them. But again, it's minor, small, and I just kind of was looking for it. So,
I guess I'm going to switch to more of a positive. One of the things that I didn't notice when I originally watched these movies, but learned later in like the special features, was how they use perspective to make Gandalf look so big in Hobbiton. And now that I know how the tricks are used, it still doesn't take the magic away. Like it still looks really great. Like. You couldn't even tell it, like, because the table he's sitting at when he's having tea with Bilbo is actually two separate pieces, but you can't even tell that it's two separate pieces. It just looks so natural.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of movies, especially older movies, use perspective to pull off their tricks and stuff, and it looks always so much better than crappy CGI.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like, if you have really good CGI, you can pull it off, but most people don't have, like, it starts getting that uncanny valley look, but the perspective thing, you can just do some crazy stuff that just you go, oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, that was two pieces of that table, and they're actually like 30 feet apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one scene that I took note of that I thought looked great, in my mind, is when spoiler, when Gandalf dies, quote unquote. He falls down and and like everyone's crying and Frodo's trying to go to him, but the what's his name, Boromir grabs onto him, and like he has him picked up like a child, and you see Frodo's face turn around, and it looks like he's has a child in his arms, but you can see Frodo's face clearly, and I was like, okay, yeah, that scene actually looks great.
Yeah,
he actually looks like a hobbit there.
Yeah.
That might have just been like a face swap thing, or just they, like, I don't know how they would have done that one. But yeah, there's a lot of little things like that. They're just like, man, they put so much care into this movie.
Also, speaking of that scene, damn, does the Balrog still look cool? Like,
yes,
that CG did not age at all. Like, that still looks amazing.
It's because it was dark.
Well, yeah, it's dark, but even he's just lit. Like he lights up.
He's
the fire,
lit.
And yeah,
that's how the term came.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of bugs me about that scene, and it's not like how the movie did it. This is like how it was written in the book. Is Gandalf hanging on this edge, but the Balrog is like not holding on to him, so it's like he's just sitting there. It's like, no, they have time. They could go over and pick him up.
Definitely could have.
Yeah, I actually was gonna comment that. I was like, why couldn't they he hold on? But as we find out later in the movies, we will.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I just feel like it would have been better if like he was holding on, and then like the bridge broke underneath him, and then he fell, or something, like besides him just letting go and go, nah.
Well, I'm pretty sure he wanted to fall in the first place. Yeah. That's the whole reason why he let everyone else go first. That's the whole reason why he stood back. And maybe he was like, oh, I defeated the Balrog. He falls down. He can just forget about it. But I think he wanted to fall off there if it came to that. Because it was
He
kind of
did.
alluded to throughout a lot of the movie.
Yeah. Well, he knew. I think he knew he had to. That had to happen. But like after he knocks it down, he turns and he's just like, "Whew, I did it." And then, oh
Yeah.
no, I've been grabbed. And then I'm not grabbed, and I'm just holding on. And you guys could pull me up, but don't. I
Well,
don't
and
know.
also at that point, they already had like goblin arrows flying at them, right? If you
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
that was during a slow mo scene. They had like the goblin
2
arrows
arrows,
shooting at
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So obviously the goblin horde was catching up after the Balrog was gone.
All I'm gonna say is I'm glad he held on a little bit longer so that he can say the best line in the movie.
Yeah.
Why you fools?
Yes.
I always thought it was
I
Brownie
actually,
Pools.
well,
Yeah.
I actually, I didn't know that he said that line twice. He says it in the Great Dwarf hallway when they're running, and then he says it, on the bridge too. I never noticed that he said the line twice in the movie.
He doesn't say it exactly though, does he?
Mm-hmm. He says, "Fly, fly, fools!" And go.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
See, everyone always says that, like, when he says "fly, you fools" before he falls, he's just telling them, "Hey, use the eagles." But he didn't. Or
Let's
they didn't.
back it up a little bit. What do you guys think about the whole like Nazgul chase and a little? I know, it's a little. I don't want to say like force, but I don't want to say force. I forget the term I'm looking for, but those Nazgul should have found Frodo and killed all of them easily.
Yeah. Well, the other scene that stands out, Nazgul chasing, is when he's on the horse with Arwen. And it's the same kind of thing, is they're just like keep trying to block her, but it's like they're not pulling out their swords, they're not swiping at her. It's like we've seen them kill somebody from horseback. Why aren't they doing those tactics?
Yeah, and also like when there's 5 of them like fighting Aragorn, and Aragorn somehow like is able to defeat a 1 and 5.
Well, that's because he's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that I don't mind.
Well, he was able to light like 2 on fire with 1 blow, and then
Right.
But they come back, so I thought they were dead then.
Yeah.
But nope, water's their kryptonite.
well, they
Well,
also
fire
they
and
also come
fire
back
is-
from the water too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
But that's
technically
that's in the next
not
movie. So,
dead. Yeah,
yeah.
they can't die. Except for by
And they're not living.
Yeah, they're not dead, but they're not living, so they have weaknesses, but they don't kill the weaknesses don't kill them.
Yeah, they're taking a nap. They're taking a
Yeah.
rest.
Because fire is also, I believe, if I remember it from the books, is one of their weaknesses. It's fire and water.
That's a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Two. Yeah, two.
That's like
I
two
have this-
2 out of 4 elements.
Yeah, I guess how many we have? All of them. Okay, maybe not air. Although if we get too much air, we do
Earth.
pass out. Earth can crush us easily.
Oh, that's just a weight.
Nah, I mean, it can bury you. I don't know. We can be weak to it.
One thing I do want to point out, which I kind of, I don't want to say I laugh, but it's kind of a nitpick, is how did that horse, or that pony, I'm sorry, survive that mountain? Like, unless they found it after the mountain, unless I'm like remembering wrong, but
No, they had
They
the
go-
pony from the Shire.
yeah, so it went on the
Bill.
mountain, got snowed on, and then they sent
buried-
it home
yeah.
at the mine of the Moria door.
Yeah, they dug it out of the snow and then went, "Come, Bill, come to the mines with us, even though we're going to send you away."
Yeah.
But he was carrying some things, so makes the journey to the mines a little easier. Speaking of the mines, so this one has always been like a nitpick of mine, even from like when I saw this in high school, originally in theaters, is they open the mines, a dwarven mine, with an elven word when dwarves don't like elves.
I guess I never thought of that.
Why?
Is-
Yeah,
is
it
that
shouldn't
also in the book?
I can't, and I don't remember what language was in the book, but it was a similar scene. But I just never understood. Yeah, why it's not. What's the dwarven word for friend?
That was
That is an
that
interesting
kinda
point.
news.
Yeah.
That's always bugged me. And
Yeah, never
Still
trust an
bugs
elf.
me to
That's
this
a
day.
good point. Yeah.
yeah, it's like why? Unless maybe that was part of it. They were just
Well,
like,
if
No
I
one will
remember,
expect it
It's a
to be
riddle,
Elven.
so I don't know.
Yeah, no one will expect it to be Elven.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember back to like The Hobbit and like, weren't they on good terms with the elves? Like that group of dwarves were on good terms with the elves back.
Yeah, back in the Hobbits, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it might have been that door may have been made by the elves. So
yeah, because I don't think dwarves really have the power to make magic like that, like a magic door. I don't
they,
think.
I think they do, but I don't know.
I don't know. I've never seen a dwarf mage.
Oh, you've never played D&D, my friend.
I've played D&D. I've just never ran into a dwarf mage.
Oh well, they exist.
You're not cultured enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the one thing that I really started to notice as the movie went on, Frodo gets into a lot of situations where it seems like he's gonna die or he practically does die.
Yeah.
It all
He
starts
never-
with like the Nazgul, when they stab him with a
Yeah.
sword, and then the octopus monster, grabs him and only him, and then later on it's the cave
He
troll
gets stabbed by
stabs
the
him.
cave troll. Yeah.
The only thing
He's-
that I could like think of is because he's carrying the ring. The ring emanates
Yeah.
evil. Evil is drawn to it. That
That's-
would
That'd
be
be my
Elven.
guess. My biggest problem with that is even after all these things, like all the other hobbits are like, "Oh, I'm gonna learn how to fight. And he's just like, "No, I'm good."
They have
Like you're the one who's in trouble. Why aren't you learning these things? I'm fine. You're not fine, Frodo.
Yeah, does he
Speaking
actually
of
like
him almost
take it-
dying? Is how did that? I mean, I know he had the mithril vest on, but come on,
That's how-
how
how
does
the-
that stop a troll sword or spear?
Hey,
you know?
it's
super strong?
It- yeah. I mean, it knocked the air out of him, but it didn't pierce. It couldn't pierce the armor. He probably had a wicked bruise.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it probably just movie things, but it just seemed like
well, it's
he-
magical
dead.
things. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. It's a fantasy world. You can't
Yeah, it's mithril.
think
Mithril.
logically about.
It's as hard as dragon scales. Can a cave troll pierce a dragon hide? It cannot.
no.
It's as hard as adamantium.
Yeah. But it's light and fabricy, so it still can cause bruises. Just like real chainmail. Although you can pierce through real chainmail, it's not impossible. So what was I going to say? I had a thing I wanted to say.
Callus was going to say something. What were you going to say?
Callus, you say your thing. I'll think.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but another thing I wanted to bring up is the Kraken at the lake. What do you guys think of the look?
I like the look of it. I thought it looked pretty good.
It still holds up, and yeah, I might thought.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
fine.
All visually pleasing. I also like how the monster doesn't come until they disturb the water, so it wasn't like oh, we're here, oh, there's a monster.
Yeah. So I remembered what I was going to say. So also, most of their problems could have been resolved or not happened if they had just never brought Merry and Pippin.
Well, yeah. Well, Merry and Pippin, they volunteered, so you know.
Well, he foreshadows that when he's like, "Oh, can't bring stupid" or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he
Both of
needs-
them do.
Yeah.
Of them do stupid stuff throughout the whole movie. Obviously,
I
I know
think
by
that's-
the last movie they get smarter and actually, know the world a little bit, so they're not as naive and stupid about everything. But
Yeah, I think they meant to do that for like foreshadowing purposes and all that.
Well, it's character growth throughout the
character growth.
trilogy. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
I also like how Boromir and Merry and Pippin kind of form like a slight bond, right?
yeah,
And at the end, Boromir dies trying to defend them. I thought that was great.
yeah, I
Yes.
agree.
Very good, nice touch.
A lot of good writing in this, and a lot of hints and a lot of because Gandalf knew that the mines of Moria were not a good place to be, but that's
Yeah.
why he kept trying to avoid it, and then
Saruman
like
forced
that.
his hand.
yeah.
Yeah, he did. Although I think they could have, it looked like the storm was dying down after they got buried by an avalanche. It's like, no, we could go on, continue.
Yeah, well, you never know. Saruman could have continued.
Yeah, no, he probably would have kept going.
But I just like how he just stops after that, after they go in the mines. Like I know he said yeah, I'll let the mines do its work, but it's like,
Well,
what
I
do you-
mean, he obviously knew that the Sauron obviously knew that the mines were even like he even says in a line he's like, well, the mines
Yeah.
are more dangerous than any other pathway, so
Yeah,
you're
that's
either
what
gonna try and fight the weather with me controlling it, or you're gonna venture through this area that I can't do anything in, but there's other things at work that can slow you
But
down.
the dwarfs dug too greedily and dug too deep.
Yeah.
Oh, so I thought the orcs like inside the mines were sent by Saruman.
No,
Nope.
they live
Now
there.
they're just there.
They
I
they
see.
took over the mines after they killed the dwarves.
Yep.
I guess Cal's never seen The Hobbit. No.
Well, he wasn't on he cut him some slack. He wasn't on the podcast back in those days.
Yeah,
I only saw
Um,
like the first two Hobbit movies.
they weren't great.
No.
Well, the first two are really the only ones that you need to watch because the third one is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Second one's pretty garbage too.
Well, I thought the second one, at least Smaug was done pretty well.
Smaug doesn't really show up much until the third one.
But
he's in the
he
beginning
has the
of
whole
third one.
interaction with Bilbo.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
like that. That is a good scene. There's just Peter Jackson just decided, like, what if everything
Hold on,
was
we're going too off.
CGI?
We're going
I
too
know,
off
I know.
topic. We're going
Way
too off
too far
topic.
up.
I mean, it's similar, but legally.
I think if you want to know more about our thoughts on The Hobbit, there's an episode back in the day.
Wait, did we watch it? I thought we watched the animated.
We watched the
Hobbit.
animated one, but we talked a lot about the
okay.
Peter
The Peter
Jackson
Jackson
one.
Okay.
And so one of us recommends it on here.
I'd watch the first one in that trilogy again. I think that's still
That's true. The
that's
You
first
still
don't
one
want
was
to see the
pretty
Battle
good.
of the Five Armies?
I thought it was
Alright,
7.
back to Lord of the Fellowship.
So I do
Let's
know
go.
since this movie's been around for 20 years or 21 years now, almost. There's a lot of memes about this movie.
Yeah.
And anytime one of those scenes came up that like has been turned into a meme, like immediately just was like, I remember
Yeah,
this meme. It's
I
a
had
good
the
meme.
same exact thought. I was like noticing like so many memes. I was like, oh, there's that scene, and oh, there's that other meme.
Yeah, there was
Especially
a lot
with Gandalf.
Gandalf, Gladriel, Boromir.
Boromir, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't,
Boromir.
they all have so many memes.
One does not
And-
simply, etc. Whatever the rest of the
walk
quote is.
into Mordor. Except for they do.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's
That was, like-
spoilers. That's
Spoilers.
Spoilers, sorry, for a 21-year-old movie. But that was the plan. Is like, well, okay, well, we don't walk into Mordor, but we're going to.
well, they're gonna try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we could talk a little bit more about like a specific scene, I think the scene where they form like the council there, the secret meeting. I think that's a really well done scene, and you can tell like the ring is like manipulating people to be angry at each other, like because all of a sudden it kind of just explodes at the end there until Frodo speaks up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's got to be something with hobbits are able to resist the ring a little bit more than regular humans, even though Frodo still obviously is
It's
he's
just, it takes longer. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw Bilbo. It affects.
Yeah, Bilbo had it for 60
I'll
years.
say in fact, Bilbo.
Golem was technically
spoilers.
well, Golem was a hobbit-ish.
Yeah,
Like an ancestor to the hobbits.
Well, I
basically
think
a hobbit.
he was a hobbit because I remember in the third movie it's like it starts off with like his backstory, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that whole council scene is really well scripted too. Like I like how everything kind of comes together, and then also when they have all these like random older characters, older men being characters, and you can kind of see like Legolas is a shining example of you can kind of tell who's going to be in the Fellowship before they actually join the Fellowship, because like
Right.
they do like these big Legolas shows up and he's got like the sun behind him and he does like the smoldering stare, and Gimli's there, and yeah.
Well,
You
they assume most of the people who saw this, who saw this had read the book. They were hoping to get others, but I think that was fan service for the books
Yeah, maybe it was, but
or
yeah,
book
it was.
readers, I should say.
That was very obvious to me. Like even though I already knew who was going to be in the Fellowship, I was
Mhm.
like, wow, they really They really made these other background characters look way too old and disheveled to actually go on a quest with this group.
Yeah.
And no one else
And none
got,
of them.
a say in anything.
That's
So
what I
it's
was just about to say. Yeah.
yeah.
No one else contributed.
Well, no one else
Yeah.
wanted to do it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, another thing is, so hobbits, they've shown that they kind of resist this ring. And there's like, Frodo, you have to do it. And I know it's going to corrupt you slowly, but it's like, what if we let it, like, every few days, goes to a different hobbit? Kind of what they did in Harry Potter and the Horcrux, I guess. Take turns with the ring. And that way it lasts longer, and then they get to the mountain, and no one wants to suddenly go, no, I must keep it. Spoilers.
I guess the only thing I can think of to counter that would be like, well, now you have 4 hobbits who are all getting obsessed with the ring.
Yeah.
Eventually, by the end of it, 4 of them would be stabbing each other to claim it, something like that.
Maybe.
And I guess also Frodo wouldn't want, that same fate brought upon anyone else, any of his friends.
It's his weight to bear.
It is his weight to bear.
And you can see that, like, that character development, and it's great character development for everyone in this movie. How he's starting to realize, all right, it's my duty, I have to do it. And that's when, he starts going off and running off by himself.
Yeah, and in the span of 3 or so hours, they really do develop every single character. Whether, I mean, some of them, like Legolas and Gimli, I think get a lot more development as the movies go on, but, you definitely feel for Boromir. Aragorn's story, a bunch of the different elf characters, all the main characters have gotten, like, a fleshed out story, and they've also gone through some character changes already in, like, this span of 3 hours for the movie time.
Yeah.
Like, how many different
Lurtz-
characters? How many
Lurtz
different
had the
characters
biggest-
did? Go ahead. What?
No, it was a joke. Lurtz, the commander of the Urks.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
No one even knew who that was until I honestly didn't even know who that was until I played the Battle for Middle Earth games.
No, what I was gonna say is oh damn, what was I gonna say?
You got Lurtz
forgot.
on your mind now.
Something about
Yeah, exactly.
characters. How many?
Oh yeah, no, I
characters?
was gonna say, like, how many different characters did Frodo try to hand off the ring to?
I think it was only like
2.
Gandalf, Gandalf,
Well, Aragorn.
Aragorn,
The
And
elf.
Boromir tried to take
Galadriel.
it. Yeah, and so
Boromir
like
tried to
3.
take it.
Yeah,
and
so
then,
I tried to hand it off to the elf witch. I forgot her name.
That was
Galadriel.
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 Yeah.
So yeah,
Did,
it's
did
only
he try
3.
to give it to her? I thought she
Yes.
was just getting
Yeah.
angry at him.
No,
Yep.
because he held out the ring, and in his mind he was thinking to her, what if I just gave it to you? Blah blah blah. And that's when she had that vision of her future with the ring, right? That's what I
And
guessed it was,
As
right?
evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
she
then she was able to break free of it, and that's when she's like, I passed. I can
That's
leave
the
this
test.
place.
That was a good scene too. I enjoyed that scene. There was a lot of, I don't want to say jump scares, but like
yeah.
scenes that are like, oh shoot, like when
There's like 2 at the beginning of the movie, like with the firework,
yeah,
and then the Eye of Sauron. The first time Frodo sees it, or
yeah,
Gandalf sees it. I apologize.
No,
Gandalf sees it.
yeah.
Like that one made me jump. I was like, holy shit.
Bilbo,
in
when he goes
Rivendell
crazy
and,
for the ring.
yeah, and when
in Rivendell.
what's the Bilbo? Not Bilbo. Is it Bilbo?
Yeah.
Like goes for the ring again, and he like yells. He's like, ah! And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, jeez.
Yeah, so many scary images. Like, when I was the first time I watched it, I definitely got scared myself a few times.
Definitely not for kids.
Yeah. Well, I
That's
mean,
why it's
we watched
PG-13.
we watched it when we were kids, but we were more focused on like the fighting scenes,
Yeah. Speaking of that, what do you guys think of the Mines of Moria fighting scene? Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I love that sequence.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
I think the
Yeah.
Mines of Moria in general, it's like the best part of the movie in my opinion. Like, I actually, you know what? From the entrance of Mines of Moria until like the end of the movie, that's when it like really hits its stride, and there's just so much going on. I like the whole movie in general. Don't get me wrong, but that Mines of Moria section, everything just happens so like everything's written so well. The action, with the cave troll and the goblins pouring in, like it's an intense moment. You I like the whole sequence of events pretty much from like that point in the movie onward, like especially.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. Or
And that
even when
that Balrog, man, I love the design of the Balrog. So
The
fucking
Balrog,
cool.
yeah.
That
what was I gonna say?
Balrog.
But also like the dialogue too, like I think through the whole movie it's very, very strong, but in the mines, like I just love how, Gandalf's sitting there on the rock and Frodo, and he's having like a back and forth with Frodo, and Frodo reveals like he's not sure if he's strong enough to keep going on. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
like really memorable lines in the movie that I mean, it's just like, of course, it was probably J.R.R. Tolkien's voice, but hearing Gandalf speak the words to Frodo was pretty cool.
Yeah. I like that line, the whole so do everyone who are born to such times. I do also like that it's repeated again as Frodo's about to leave, and my first thought was, God, this movie's so long, they have to be like, hey, remember that thing he said a few hours ago?
Well, yeah. The way I see it is like Frodo's remembering it, so
I
they
know,
just
I know. No, and
did
I
the
was okay.
voiceover.
It just made me laugh thinking
Yeah.
about it that way. Which, like I said, I know it's not like it was important, but
Yeah, I think ahead to like, Two Towers is the next movie in the series, of course, and I think ahead to like that part where Merry and Pippin are talking to Treebeard, and just how that breaks up the action so much. It's just these long conversations that go on for like 5-10 minutes, and you think to this movie, and just thinking of the Mines of Moria section, which is probably like a full like 40 minutes of the movie is just when they're in the Mines of Moria, and it just goes by so quickly. Maybe it's more like 30 minutes, I should say. But that just goes by so quickly. And then the rest of the movie also starts to go by a lot quicker because they don't have like a huge slowdown in between the more fast-paced parts of the movie. So I think this one flows. I mean, I haven't seen the other two movies in a while, don't get me wrong, but this one flows pretty well, especially towards that middle point.
yeah.
Has anyone here seen the extended versions of these movies?
Yes, I've seen them many times. I own them.
I ended up watching it because it's the extended versions are on HBO Max.
Yeah. So are the
you
originals,
watched-
though. That's where I watched it.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
originals
they're
and
all
the
there.
extended cut. I know we all decided we're gonna do the theatricals, but I was like, you know what, I could use a few extra scenes in there.
I mean, it's like a whole nother extra hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I mean
Almost.
it's not an hour. It was like 10-20 minutes at most.
No, it's
that's
that's like 50 an extra 50 minutes. I thought.
No,
Yeah.
on HBO Max it said it was like a 3 hours and 15, and the regular version was 2 hours 58.
Oh, okay. I think it's the other two that get way longer. But I don't know.
Maybe.
I think I was
I-
thinking while watching this that Peter Jackson should release a de-extended version where he just cuts out some scenes, makes it a little bit shorter.
Yeah,
So
No, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm
we had a
looking up.
lot to.
I'm looking up how long.
No.
So
I
the
was
Fellowship of
trying
the
to
Ring
find that too.
the theatrical version is 178 minutes, and the extended cut is 208 minutes. So that's plus credits. Plus credits, it's 228 minutes. Sorry, so it's 208 minutes extended, 228 with credits. So it added it adds like what, 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Still, I still didn't feel the runtime from that halfway point onward. It was even with the extended version, it was like, wow, I can't believe that it's working this well.
Yeah, the extended versions are something that I've definitely been interested in a long time, but I just
You've
never.
never watched them?
No, I've never seen the extended ones.
The extended ones I like, actually.
If you're a
A lot.
huge fan of Lord of the Rings, you're gonna love the extended version.
Well, it explains some things a little better than that were too long, so they cut them out. Like they're
Yeah.
not super like important, but there are a few. Especially I remember in the third one or fourth one or third one or second one. Like there's some scenes in there that it gives you way more context to what's going on. I think it was the third because it was with Sauron or Saruman. But yeah, you should watch them. They're all on HBO
I
Max.
definitely will. Yeah, one day, one of these days.
Yeah, it's worth it. Like I said, especially if you're like a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, and like it gives a lot of, like Tay said, it gives a lot more context to some scenes. It adds a few things in there that are fun. More, more lore is, in a lot of ways, more lore can sometimes muddy things up, but in the case for Lord of the Rings, it actually helps with a lot of different
Yeah.
questions you might have for it.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, watching the extended cut, I didn't really feel that runtime. Especially, I think that the beginning of the movie, obviously, it's setting up a lot of stuff. I enjoy the whole scene with the Shire after they get out of the Shire when they're getting chased by the ring race. That's also pretty cool. But then there is a bit of a slowdown in the movie after that initial action where Erwin's running to Rivendell. There's a bit of a slowdown there for a little while, and they're walking around, they're hiding from crows, and once they get back on once they get back to the mines and stuff like that, it does like just zip by, for me at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they gotta walk, man. They gotta walk.
And you got to show that walking because you got to know
Yeah.
that it's a real journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta show like those sweeping vistas that they do, like while they're walking,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like the beautiful scenery.
I don't know if any of you have ever seen so that he's a guy on like TikTok/YouTube, I don't know, but he like makes funny songs. And he has one about Lord of the Rings where it's like Tolkien explaining the trilogy, and basically the lyrics are, and they walk, walk, walk. And it's like, and I was watching this, I'm like, yeah, that is accurate. It's a pretty damn funny video, so if you haven't seen it, you should find it.
Speaking of songs, did anyone see the song that Colbert recently put out celebrating the 20th anniversary?
I did not.
No.
No,
I know he's
it's
a big
like
Lord of the Rings guy, though.
yeah. So basically, he did like a Lord of the Rings rap, and he involves like all the main actors, and they also had like a part in the rap. It's
Nice.
pretty good.
Oh, actually, I remember hearing about it, but like not actually hearing the song or anything. But yeah,
I mean,
I do remember.
the song's not great, but the video is great. I mean, it's amazing considering like all the different people they
Yeah.
put in there.
Music was good too in the movie.
What'd you say?
The music was good, or the instrumental.
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
the
yeah.
orchestral score in there. Yeah, that's one of the most memorable parts of the. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the themes for Star Wars. They stick with you.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
when
good
like
soundtrack.
and when like the chorus sets in, like in the really epic moments, it really
Yeah.
brings it out.
Yeah, I really like the soundtrack for the second movie too. I know we're just talking about soundtracks. I just remember that one being the most memorable of all the three movies. But they're all really good, and I enjoy the soundtracks to them all.
Yeah, I love the theme for Isengard. That bam 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 bam. That's always been my favorite
Yeah.
theme from the.
That is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's it. That's in this one. So, maybe the score's a little bit better than you thought, huh?
Well, no, like I said, it's good here, but no, because like the one in the second movie like throws violins into it and stuff, and it's just not Isengard. Sorry, no, I'm thinking of the Rohan, which we haven't even seen yet. So
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't remember who composed this one.
I think
but-
it's crap. I used to know. I think I owned the soundtracks at one point. And I guess I still do. They're just on iTunes, but who uses iTunes anymore?
No, I used to when I played trumpet back in the day. I had the whole book of the the greatest hits of Lord of the Rings to play, and there was a lot. There's a lot of great music in there. It's like I said, it's one of the reasons. Well, I guess I didn't say this, but it's one of those reasons why like the fantasy element is like elevated in it because the music really puts you into the world along with the visuals and the actors.
Howard Shore. That's who it was.
Howard Shore. I was just about to say that.
I guess we forgot to talk about this in like the cast for this movie is pretty perfect. They had like Ian McKellen as Gandalf. I mean Elijah Wood. I mean everyone is just such a perfect fit for the roles, and the acting is really good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No
complaints
Yeah, I
here.
can't. I'm trying to think if there's any character that I go, I wish they got someone else, but there isn't.
No.
I think they nailed it. Yeah, Every
Yeah.
character is great.
They,
I
they
mean,
blew it out of the water.
the only I guess you could say
Don't say it.
Bilbo.
Oh, you said it.
No,
No, don't. Bilbo was not a bad cast. What do you want? All
No,
right.
he wasn't.
I'll let you explain yourself. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's Ian Holmes. That's who it is, right?
Yes. Rest in
Yeah.
peace.
Yes, he did a great job, and I think he makes a good old man Bilbo. But I do like what's his face, who they got Bilbo to play in the Hobbit movies. That's like the one good thing about those movies.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty good.
Oh, so your complaint isn't even about the movie we're talking about.
No. I'm just like it would have been cool to if they'd gotten Martin Freeman. No, yes, Martin Freeman. Is that his name? I can't remember now.
I think so.
Yeah, I was like, I know it's Martin something. So, but
Yes, Martin
I think
Freeman.
he was a great cast for young Bilbo, and it would have been. I mean, obviously they didn't know they were going to do the Hobbit movies, but and obviously they couldn't get Ian Holmes back for the Hobbit movies. So
Maybe they'll do a remaster of the new trilogy and they'll edit in.
just
No,
the
I
same
don't want.
from the
I don't
Hobbit.
want. I don't want them to do that. I'm not even gonna
No, I
speak
don't
that
either.
into
Take that back. Take
existence.
that back now.
It's not George Lucas. It probably won't happen.
No, I don't. Yeah. Georgie boy. Yeah, he goes a little bit too far with that stuff.
Yeah.
There's that new show for the Lord of the Rings coming out.
Yeah, it's like a prequel though.
Yeah, it's some sort of prequel. It's obviously I don't think
Oh.
Peter Jackson is like a part of it at
No,
all.
no, it's Amazon is doing it.
Yeah.
It looks boring.
A prequel, really?
I haven't seen anything for it, but I'm just upset because I'm like, "Ugh, the Hobbit stuff did so bad. Do we need more Lord of the Rings? Like you guys nailed it the first time with these these movies. We don't need more. And it's because of it. The second season of Wheel of Time is also being postponed release, and I'm just like, ah. I'd rather watch Wheel of Time than another shitty Lord of the Rings.
You know they're gonna eventually remake these movies.
Oh yeah,
Will
of
they? I
course.
don't.
Oh,
it's hard to say.
Maybe.
There might be.
I
an-
could see him
more-
doing it.
more than likely.
Not anytime soon, but I could see him doing it eventually.
You know Hollywood.
Yeah, because
If-
that's just Hollywood.
if,
That's how
like,
they operate.
They could redo like the Hobbit, like just make a Hobbit movie that's not a trilogy. Just make a
It's a
Hobbit,
single one, yeah.
just a single
Yeah,
movie. I
that'd be
think
good.
that would work out. But
Yeah.
they don't need to redo this trilogy. I don't know. Maybe touch up the effects here or there. Put out like a remastered version
so
like that.
did you know you actually can find online people who fan edits of the Hobbit trilogy down to one movie?
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I think we mentioned that back in the original
Yeah,
episode.
I think we did. But either way, I need to find one of those because I was like, yeah, because the casting wasn't horrible for that movie. It was just all the plump and weird. Anyways,
We're
again,
back on this topic.
we've talked about it before.
So, let's get back to the Fellowship here. The one thing, I mean, I know we talked about the CG and green screen a little bit, but how about those practical effects, especially on the close-ups of the goblins and the orcs and the Uruk-hai?
Yeah.
They did an amazing job with the makeup and stuff.
That was gonna
Yeah.
be my next topic, and my biggest point is when the orcs with the eyes, and then Lurtz when we first see Lurtz. Oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You could
their
tell.
use
You
of
could.
miniatures.
Well,
as
I was
well.
gonna say you could tell like Lurtz was having trouble moving in his costume a little bit,
Yeah.
especially when he was like choking out the one orc.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked well from like an aesthetic point of view. You kind
Yeah.
of understand now why like he wasn't doing much throughout most of the movie because it looked like he was a little bit awkward in the outfit. He wasn't moving around like you'd think he would.
Yeah. But like, so that scene where it comes down and they're getting Lurtz out of the goo or whatever.
The
So
pit.
Out of the
that
goo.
that whole panning of the camera and stuff, that's a miniature.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Like a lot of the characters moving stuff, those are CG or just like people on a green screen then that were put in place on the miniature. But yeah, that miniature is just amazing.
Yeah, they use more in the second movie with like the trees attacking Isengard and stuff,
Oh
but
yeah,
and
and
Helm's Deep, of course.
Helm's Deep, yeah.
But you know, I always love when movie makers use miniatures. Like the Star Wars original trilogy was a lot of miniatures done there
Yeah.
with like the Death Star and stuff, and this one has a few here and there for it. I think it makes things because it make like let's say you're destroying a building, like remember in Tremors when the Tremor was like digging around the city, you could tell it
Yeah.
was a miniature, and it looked a lot. I think it looked better than if they had made like a CG building and made the CG building fall over, because
Right?
it's more realistic because you actually have gravity and physics affecting that miniature instead of, computer generated physics.
Yeah. I saw an interview, I think it was with Seth Rogen. But he was talking, yeah,
Oh,
him and his laugh.
Oh, that's a good
But
laugh.
but he was talking about how like it's like more directors and stuff, they want to use miniatures. They like it looks better, but for some reason studio execs are just like, no, it doesn't. No one likes miniatures, and then they force them to use CGI.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's the corporate world of Hollywood
Yeah.
sneaking in. They're
But-
trying to cut corners.
Yeah,
But
Plus,
it probably
a little
costs more.
cheaper.
Like think about the Sonic movie and how they had to redo Sonic in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Allegedly, we don't know if that was their plan all along. Allegedly, I'll say. Think of how much money they wasted there, and think of
Yeah.
how many scenes in like Star Wars, the newer Star Wars trilogy, or even like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, where like it's all CG. Like think of how much money they probably would have saved if they had just made one take miniature. Roll the film, boom, it's done. Like
Yeah.
think like they're always like, oh, we'll save money by using CG, but then it's like, no, you're not really. I mean,
But yeah, apparently that's just Hollywood. The execs are just like that, I guess. Where they're just like, no, 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 CG. It looks better. It's advanced, so it's got to look better. It's like no, old school can look better.
yeah, I mean, even when like they de-age people in like movies, it just doesn't look right, And just like I think we talked about this in Rogue One, where they like Grand Moff Tarkin was like completely remade because of course the actor had passed away, so they like digitally reconstructed his face onto someone else's body. It's just like it just looks weird and it just doesn't seem right. It's like if in these Lord of the Rings movies, let's say in the third movie, Saruman was supposed to have a bigger role, but Christopher Lee had passed away before Return of the King. Like that would have been so weird to just see him digitally edited in. Like
Yeah, and
it's-
I don't know if they would have just because where we were technology.
or think about when they were making The Hobbit, right? And they
They would have for the Hobbit. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, if they would have that one.
everything was CGI in the Hobbit, which is why the orcs didn't look as good.
Well, it's also like all the rooms were also green screens too. Like you see Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen in Saruman's tower in the Fellowship of the Ring, and that looks amazing because it's all there.
Yeah.
And then you look at the same scene in the Hobbit movie, and it's like in the special features, it's all green screen around Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen. And it's like this is so weird. Like think of like from the actor's perspective, like that's got to be so disheartening to go from walking on a set that actually has every little detail that they want to put in the movie to, we'll add it in post. Pretend you're walking around the, blah blah blah. It's like why do this?
Well, I know Ian McKellen like had a breakdown filming Lord of the Rings just because of all the perspective stuff. He wasn't acting with anybody. He was like always off on his, on his own and stuff. It might have been, maybe it was The Hobbit, but I'm pretty sure it was Lord of the Rings. But yeah, he kind of had a breakdown because he wasn't acting with anybody, and he just was like, I missed acting with people.
That sounds like more of a Hobbit thing.
Yeah. And like I said, it might have been. I can't remember which
I
one
think it was. I think
but-
I remember that clip. I think it was in The Hobbit. Because in the Fellowship of the Ring in these movies, I mean, it was just like they were in the same room. Like he was there for mostly all the shots except for those perspective shots where Bilbo's actually farther away than he actually was. But yeah, that sounds like something from the Hobbit trilogy. Which
Yeah.
is more,
And
which
they-
is
like,
understandable because
Yeah.
he actually wasn't talking to a lot. Like a lot of those, a lot of those characters were kind of like CG'd in, or, yeah. Like I would definitely, you can tell it takes a toll. Especially, you think back to the prequels as well. Like all that's pretty much just like digital effects. You have Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to nothing. Ian McGregor is talking to nothing, and like all of Camino is just CG.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's got to take a toll on actors. So that's why when you look back at this original Fellowship of the Ring movie, you just kind of stare in awe, because like everything that they're walking through is actually there for the most part. There are a few things that are digital like we talked about before, but for the most part, everything is practical. They used on-set locations, like the whole forest scene. Like they put a lot of those ruins there. A lot of those ruins were already pre-existing there that they used, except for like the giant head, and some other things. But there were a lot of ruins that were already there that they utilized for the movie itself.
Yeah.
And they actually, funny story on, I think it was like 1,000 Ways to Die. There was one where this Viking king had died on the steps of like his kingdom, and they actually used the same forest area as the Lord of the Rings. So I recognize that from when Frodo's walking up the staircase with Boromir's there. That's actually where they shot that same scene. I'm pretty sure.
Huh.
Didn't know that.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I figured most of the ruins were just set pieces or matte paintings.
Yeah, everything that was like kind of like structure wise, like the stairs, that like that thing that Frodo falls off of with like
Yeah.
I think the statue on top of it was put in there, but I think the ruins themselves were pre-existing. And of course, like I said before, like there's the giant head that's like laying on the ground. That's I think that's added in post as well.
Interesting.
But you gotta love I mean, Peter Jackson is a huge nerd.
Yeah.
And he put every little detail he could in there, and he tried to recreate every set, like everything that he tried to make everything as real as possible, and you gotta appreciate him for that, at least in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but also like didn't they film all three movies at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, they were like kind of like right after one another.
That must have been such a gargantuan effort.
Yes. That might be part of why The Hobbit like has some of these issues, is because maybe the studios were just like, look, we want you to do the Hobbit movie, but we don't want you to do what you did for Lord of the Rings. Like that was just too much. Cut it back some. But I don't know.
Okay.
Is it just me? Last
Okay,
thing,
yes.
is it just me, or like did watching this movie give anyone else like the urge to play a Lord of the Rings video game?
Yeah, yeah. I actually wanted to play Battle for Middle Earth today, which is that
RTS
classic game, RTS
Top-down.
classic game,
Yeah.
and it's the best game ever. Still one of
And
my favorites.
I have
What's
a whole
funny is
slew of
that,
them on my list to play.
And
I
like
thought it didn't work on your computer.
I don't know what you're talking. I have a whole list of games to play for stream.
Battle for Middle Earth.
No, I didn't say Battle for Middle Earth.
yeah,
I
it's
was
other
talking
games.
about
Okay.
it. You just randomly said that, so I thought you were talking about Battle for Middle Earth. My
No,
bad.
I got like I got the Return of the King. I got Two Towers here. I got the Third Age, which was one of my childhood favorites.
I thought you meant Battle for Middle. Anyways, go ahead, Kels.
No, I was just gonna say that like about a week ago, I actually before I even knew that we were gonna watch this movie, I was at like a comic book store, and sometimes they have like some video games in the for sale, and I actually found the Two Towers and Return of the King for GameCube, and I got myself both of them.
Yeah,
So that was
that's where I
great.
played them back when I was a
Yeah.
child.
Does anyone remember the
Yeah.
Hobbit game on the GameCube?
I knew about it, but I never played it.
It was a
Yeah.
lot. It was really good. Obviously, it was created before the Hobbit movies and stuff, so it was very stylistic, but it followed the book really well, and it was a good game.
Did anyone play the Super Nintendo Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the
I
Ring?
didn't even know there was one.
There was. It was long before the movie, obviously. It was like a top-down Zelda-like type of adventure, but it was kind of janky. I don't know if I would recommend it.
And of course,
Or
the
the
newest ones,
Conquest?
the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor, I think, is a lot better than the sequel to it, but they're both pretty good games. They kind of have like that Batman Arkham style combat where you're kind of like hitting enemies in stride combos. And then there's the new Gollum game coming out, which I'm excited for.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Hopefully, we get a remaster of Conquest. That'll be cool. but I don't think.
Oh,
that's
I would love Conquest. I'd love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Battlefield style one where you take over control points and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that on stream too.
Yes, you do. All right. Any last opinions, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, watching the movie again. I don't think I've watched a movie since. It's been a long time since I've watched these movies. But
Same.
I just remember how obsessed I was with Lord of the Rings as a kid. I got greedy. I got greedy into it. And I just like Lord of the Rings was such a big part of my childhood, and going back gave me a lot of nostalgia. You know, I went into the basement and found like my old like plastic swords that we used to play with, and
Jeez.
Oh wow.
it was just a lot. It was a lot nice walk down memory lane, and I just it's kind of like my childhood. It bundled up in a movie.
Yemmy tearing. I just said that weird.
I'll tell you, when I was teary eyed was when Boromir was dying. That was much more
Yeah.
emotional than I remember.
All right. Yeah.
Or Sean Bean.
Yeah, poor Sean Bean. He dies in like every single fantasy type movie that he's in.
Not just fantasy.
Well, yeah.
And also action movies.
Yeah, I was thinking about 90% of the movies he's been in. I mean, it's a running joke. He knows it's a joke at this point.
What's the most visceral Sean Bean death? Is it Boromir? Or because he's one of the villains in Mission Impossible at one point, right? Or James
it was
Bond.
GoldenEye.
No,
GoldenEye.
James
GoldenEye.
Bond. GoldenEye.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
I
that.
I
mean,
mean, in Game of Thrones, he gets his head cut off.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Spoiler for the first season of a show that came out 10 years ago.
All right. Well, you guys, anyone else have anything they want to say about the movie?
No, I think I'm good.
Callus?
I'm good.
Grady?
I'm good.
Start us off then with our final
All right.
thoughts and rating.
All right, so Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. What a nostalgia! What a classic! I definitely really enjoyed watching this again. I watched it more in depth, as we kind of alluded to throughout this podcast. Is as when I was younger, I just focused, on that big action scenes. Legolas, sniping or it's not zombies, orcs from miles away, just like those kind of scenes where I thought it was so cool, and like the fighting scenes, and those still hold up to this day, and those scenes are really cool. And I think the Lurt's death was also really cool. His arm getting chopped off and then stabbed in the chest and then his head amputated. So I thought that was pretty cool, and they still stand up. Just going back to what I was saying, like the message throughout the movie was awesome. The quotes that are used as memes, or just the quotes from Gandalf and other characters were still rememberable, and it was just cool to see it go through it again. The Belloג, awesome, as Yemmy alluded to, was really cool. And just the pacing, there were some scenes, like we could have skipped, like Boromir, messing with the sword, which I know has a future reference, but just like, could have kept that, those kind of scenes out.
I mean, that's a pretty important scene, all things considered.
Yeah, that's why I said in the future, like it.
Well, even for the context of the movie, because Boromir's, Aragorn's like the rightful king for Gondor, right? And well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
We could talk about that. And then now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, like the ending scene was awesome, and the actors were incredible, and we nailed it in the coffin when we said it was the right actors for the movie. But all that being said, I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I agree with most of your points. I don't think that. I think every scene kind of serves a purpose in the movie, even if it's a little bit slower. The pace of the movie is pretty good. The actors, and actresses all do phenomenal work. The sound, the score for the movie is great. The cinematography is beautiful. It holds up really, really well. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say. It's a really great movie, and it starts something. It starts off this trilogy of movies strong, and yeah, I think if you give it anything less than a 5 out of 5, you're crazy.
All right. Yeah, agree with Yemmy here. Um, every scene, I joked about a de-extended version, but every scene is important. Even just the walking vistas. Acting's great. Score is amazing. Cinematography is great. Yeah, there's little things you can nitpick about here and there, but overall, yeah. I mean, it's my it's 20 years ago. It's not quite my childhood because I was a teenager, but but still. I mean, I read the books in high school too, and I was a big fan of Lord of the Rings. So, of course, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 as well.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everyone. I also agree with Yemi and Tay that the pacing I didn't mind at all. I thought they filled in the almost 3 hours very good on like the theatrical version, and hopefully I can get around to watching the extended version someday. But yeah, everything about this movie was just so enthralling, so well made. The cinematography, the music, acting, just everything just comes together so well. Yeah, but besides the nitpicks that we all talked about in the beginning, like when the one scene that stood out to me was like when the giant cave troll was fighting them, and the two hobbies were on his back stabbing him, and then he was like shaking around. That looked very fake. But even with all the different nitpicks, I agree with all of you. I would not be able to give it anything less than a 5 out of 5.
A clean sweep.
Yeah. Oh, there is one scene that I did want to talk about. Wanted your guys' opinion on when they're making alerts and he's like in that bubble. Was that like CGI or was someone like actually like wrapped in there?
He was
No,
actually wrapped in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was actually covered in, I don't know.
Probably gelatin
Yeah.
or something.
imagine doing that scene. Oh, jeez.
Probably had to do it a few times.
Yep.
So, Callus thought he was gonna get away with something.
Uh-oh, I was just thinking about that.
But
yeah.
unfortunately, I was saving it for the end of the podcast because I knew we were all kind of, wanting to talk about the Fellowship of the Ring. But Callus, you give us your thoughts on Roger Rabbit. Obviously, you weren't here for the last episode, so just
Yeah.
fill us in a little bit.
Sure. Well, first of all, I enjoyed listening to that episode without me. I'm very sad that I missed talking to Odom, but yeah, I stand by the 4 out of 5 that I gave it, because I know that I said that it's rough around the edges, but I guess what I meant to say is like a little bit rough around the edges. Like with some of the things that you guys pointed out, with when the characters are kind of far away, kind of looks a little bit janky, and like the whole scene in Toontown, I don't know why, but like that entire scene didn't really sit all that well with me. I think it was just like a little bit too much. But I did enjoy it, and I guess I'm not really nostalgic for it because when I was a kid, I did have the NES game Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I had no idea that it was a movie until like much later.
I looked up that game after the podcast, and whew,
Yeah,
if you want to talk about something that's rough like that, that's rough.
Yeah, and I could never figure out how to play it either. It was so confusing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that movie.
All right. Well, Tay, you have a movie recommendation for us.
I do. So get prepared to continue the nostalgia road or whatever, nostalgia trip. I'm gonna make us watch The Two Towers.
There we go.
All right.
So supposing best action scene ever in the trilogy.
Yeah. I remember liking Two Towers more than Fellowship. So we'll see if that still stands up. But
I remember watching the Two Towers, and I was like, wait, if this is Two Towers, then what's gonna happen in the third movie? Like, this was already like so epic.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a lot more Christopher Lee. It's got a lot more Gollum. You know, there's
Yeah.
like those characters kind of start to shine in this movie. Go ahead and do the spiel,
Oh.
Tay.
So Peter Jackson directing. Same cast as we had for the last movie.
Yeah,
Sean Bean.
Nope,
Viggo
not Sean
Mortensen.
Bean.
He's the only
Oh,
one.
yeah,
That...
right.
Sean
Well, no,
Bean's
I
like the
think-
only one who's not in
He
this
did.
one.
Right.
He did.
I think there's a flashback with him, but that might be in the third movie.
That's in the third.
Or maybe in extended. I don't remember. But you're right. Viggo Mortensen. Frodo is Elijah Wood. Orlando Bloom. I'm doing this all from memory.
Wow.
Ian McKellen. You know, the same cast as this movie that we just talked about for an hour and a half.
What about a quick plot description from memory?
From memory, it's so our fellowship has broken. Aragorn, or I was about to say Orlando Bloom, but Legolas. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are off to chase orcs to get Merry and Pippin back, while Frodo and Sam head off to Mordor, where they meet Gollum. And then there's
I
some
had
battles.
to mute my mic just now because I was like drinking water and then I started like laugh coughing.
Sorry. Yeah, and then there's some battles at a place called Helm's Deep. They gotta defend it or something.
Yep.
It's good. Watch it. I mean, you guys are going to watch it. So.
And it's on HBO, like we
Max.
said. It's
Yeah,
pretty much
HBO
both
Max.
versions are on there. This one came out in 2002.
Yeah.
A year later.
It was
Yeah.
a rough year. I remember when Fellowship of the Ring ended, the way it ended, I was like, wait, that's where you're ending it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so mad. And
I actually did want to mention that, like not knowing, seeing the other movies. Imagine just like seeing this one and just being like, oh my god, I gotta see the others.
And having
Right.
to wait
Well,
a year.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
saying my mom, when she saw it, she hated it because she didn't realize it was a trilogy. She was like, what? That-
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does end at like a really jarring place, you know?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I almost docked its score because of its ending, because it is a little jarring, but it does flow well when you actually see all the movies. So I didn't.
It's like an Empire Strikes Back type of ending.
Yeah. But it's
Well.
weird because it's the first movie and not like the second movie. You're like, oh, okay, there's
Well,
gonna be a
yeah,
third.
I mean, it's pretty much two short movies combined, so.
Yeah.
But if you, the listener, don't want to be spoiled, or if you want to join the conversation for the Two Towers, make sure you watch it before the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks from this one. And don't forget that the fan vote is attached to the next episode, so we'll announce the movies for that, and the voting will go up along with that episode in 2 weeks. All right. Anyone else have anything they want to mention before we end the show?
I did see the Battle of Helm's Deep again.
Be sure to clean your ass.
Yeah, what's that?
And go play some Lord of the Rings video games.
All right. Well, I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I've been here with,
Greedy Waffles.
Daymation.
And just callous.
and we are Film Freaks with a Z. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Clean your
Bye.
ass.
How long are we going to do this for?
Forever.
Yep. It's a new catchphrase.